My name is Katy Rose. I am a certified functional medicine health coach. What that means is functional medicine is the heart of looking at disease and health and the function of the body, the root of how everything works. Before medicine, it's like kind of setting it back to its factory original settings. So how can we get our body to work the way it's supposed to? So my whole training is going to be around lifestyle choices, food choices, everything from sleep and relationships, and taking into effect the culture in which we live, the family dynamic, all the elements that can get in the way of our choices, our desires, emotions, history, habits, anything and everything that gets in the way of where we want to be with our health. I'm formally trained through the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, which is in partnership with the Institute of Functional Medicine out of the Cleveland Clinic. So that's quite established, quite known. I'm really proud of that. There are a lot of health coaches in the world, but there are not a lot of functional medicine certified health coaches. And what that means is that I can talk to you about mitochondria. I can talk to you about your bathroom habits. So, which is great conversation for the family here. They're always glad when I have other people to talk to. The way that people work with me is I, of course, do one-on-one coaching. I come into people's homes and do consultations in their kitchen. I do consultations in tours in grocery stores and teach how to convert, right? How to change that life, because it's a big challenge. I have a monthly membership program, Happy Healthy Club, which is a cup of coffee a month is the expense, and people get free webinars and free health tips all month long. And it's just this great program that I like because it gets to everybody, no matter their price point. Group coaching, that's another thing that I've always got a rotation of groups going on. And so a lot of diabetes management, appetite management, sleep management. That's my training. Now, the story that brought me to this, and I'll be kind of brief, but I think it's really important because it helps you to know why I have a position on appetite management. I used to be 240 pounds for years and years. I'm going to be 48 this year, and I spent the entirety of my 20s and 30s, 200 plus pounds. And deep-seated food addiction, deep-seated emotional eating. So much of those years was spent with every waking thought being about my next bite, how to get a bite that I want, something I'm craving, something I shouldn't be eating. It was food nonstop, 24/7. And with that, you can imagine my hormones were all over the place. When hormones are out of whack, you get a plus size woman in her 30s losing her hair, but she's got chin hairs, just they run the gamut. So been there, done that, really did the deep trench work on myself. Then went on to, because of the fallout from that of years of obesity and just literal body abuse, ultimately, even though I found a way to work through my food addiction, ultimately still was dealing with the health consequence of that and had a massive health event in my health crisis in my life. And it put me in bed so sick for 2 years that at times I couldn't lift the blanket off my body. My body had become so weak and malnourished because it couldn't process anything anymore. I had overdone it. I broke my body. And so collapsing, walking across a room, had really gotten very, very ill. And that's when the deep dive into functional medicine happened. I've always had an interest or a passion. And it was funny because I thought, here I am, this plus size girl with a passion for health and nutrition, and I'll read everything out there, but I couldn't make the connections. And so that love and that passion really culminated in a way that enabled me to get up out of bed. And now I hike, I dance, you name it. It's like, this is my second life. So that's the story of me. The deep dive into functional medicine became a passion. It became like breathing air. I just couldn't get enough and became completely obsessed with the empowerment that I learned to have about my body, about my health. You can imagine years of obesity had limitation, years of desperate illness had limitation. And as still a young woman, I wanted to have life. I wanted to live. I want longevity. I've coined myself a longevian now. So I'm on this path to dance into my 90s, looking to be 105. You all are invited to my 105th birthday party, by the way. So this is the heart of where I come from and what I've been doing that's brought me here. And then that deep dive with the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy taught me the skills in coaching and really honed the science that I had already studied on my own. Today's purpose will be tips, education, perspective information that I just want to leave you with that you can take away. There's nothing, I guess, that gets to me more than the fact that we often feel disempowered from our bodies, our health, disempowered from our relationship with food. And so giving you those baby steps to transition. And if any of these steps, oh, that's Kate, I'm beyond that, then tell me, we can go deeper. But I think it's important to give people the foundation. As I give you these tips and steps, there's going to be quite a few. What I don't want you to do is to come away going, I have to do all of this. So the way that I lost nearly 100 pounds was a smidge a day, little bits at a time. I used to be a girl that would go out to eat almost every single meal, loved the Italian restaurants because you could eat all you want on those bread baskets. And I would eat 3 bread baskets by myself before my meal. So to go from that to saying, I don't do bread anymore, that if you try to do that in one sitting, in one day, in 1 month, heck, in 1 year, it's about that evolution and that slow conversion. So take your favorite ideas from today. I'll send you notes in the email. You pick 1 or 2, just pick a little baby, just a little bit, and then integrate that into your life. And then when you get good at integrating that, go back to that email and integrate more. So that's the big thing. Pick your favorites, a smidge a day. That's my Instagram handle because I think it's so important to have just a little bit of whatever you're trying to do for yourself. The first tip that I'd like to share is something that I'm really amazed that every time I share this, nobody knows it. And when it was shared with me, I had no idea. When we are eating, when we are sitting down to a meal, sitting down to a snack, anything, we will take a deep breath when our body's actually full. Now, I was so removed from my knowledge and my familiarity with my body and where my hunger level ended, where my satiation met, and where my I'm stuffed and gonna throw up. I finally would know where that stuffed and gonna throw up would hit. But I had everything in between. I had no clue. I just thought I was always hungry until I was stuffed and I was gonna throw up. So I had a lovely mother-in-law that told me this tip. I've never heard it since, and it is the God's honest truth. You're eating, and just listen and watch. There will be a deep breath. You will take a deep breath at some point. When you take that deep breath, it is an actual metaphysical chemical response from your body saying, we're good. We're good. Okay, so that's step 1, listening for it. Now, mama likes her food. So now stopping eating when that breath says it is just like somebody taking a plate away from me and be like, oh, no, you didn't. So for me, I had to make a deal with myself. The first step was just listening for it, getting really familiar. When I did that, what I didn't know I was doing is I was also reintroducing myself to my own body, getting familiar and getting back in connection with my body. We're so removed. We have so much stimulus, so much going on. We eat in stress. We eat standing at the sink. We eat in the car, all these things. It stopped the world and I started listening and paying attention. So that was my first choice and chore to myself. Gift, I shouldn't say chore. Stop and listen to my body for that breath. Okay, so then I got to where I'm like, I can identify when and where this is happening. This is happening. I just took a deep breath, and I'm supposed to push away this plate full of delicious food that I really want to keep eating because it's pleasure. I don't think so. So what I did then is I made a deal with myself. Okay, 3 really beefy, delicious bites. Just get in there. Make love to those bites. Like, enjoy it. Those are your 3 bites, and then push your plate away. And I made that deal with myself, and I kept sticking to it. And it was a conversation that I chose with myself. And then I chose, when I got really good at that, right? I got really good at listening. And then I got really good at committing to those 3 bites. And then I got really good at 2 bites, and then 1 bite. And then eventually I would take that deep breath and I'd be like, you know what? I'm done. I really actually am done. So it's getting yourself in tune with your body again. That is, to me, the biggest thing that anybody could have ever done for me. So if it serves you, great. It was huge for me. Again, on the body awareness, so much of our eating is emotion based, whether it be stress or rejection or anxiety or fear, worry. I mean, just a million things. Well, somatically, we hold those emotional experiences in our body. So Emotion Overeaters Anonymous, Emotion Overeaters, that teaches us to touch the place where we think we're hungry. Like, I just ate 30 minutes ago a giant meal and now I'm chasing food again. Okay, where is that desire? And is it my mouth? Is it my throat? Do I like feel the emotion of hunger someplace else in my body? That's another piece of just getting connected to learning. What is it that I'm really dealing with? What do I really want? And later, as you progress in this, you'll start with the what do I really want? Because I mean, honestly, like, how often in the world does anybody ask you, what do you really want in any category? We don't know the answer to what we really want. So when we start asking ourselves, what do we really want? We start to get to a place where it's like, well, wait a minute, what am I really craving? I'm not actually craving a sweet. I'm craving something fat because maybe I've been depressed lately and I need some extra fat and nutrition for my brain. Or maybe I'm really craving a lot of water because I just haven't had any. So we start to have a conversation with our body, and the more in tune we get, it becomes this beautiful spiral benefiting us. The other thing about stress eating is these 2 spots on your forehead are called the neurovasculars. And energetically, whether it be vibrationally or pulse points, if we put our hands here and hold them, not hard, but firmly enough that there's a real good connection, if we hold our hands there until we can feel the pulse between our forehead and our fingers, we actually can drop our stress response. So it's literally, have you ever seen, well, I mean, we've all done it, oh, I'm so stressed out. You hold this part of your head when you're super maxed out, when there's a crisis has hit, I don't know what to do. That's where we go. And it's an innate response in us. So we can tend this anxious eating, this stress eating. Sometimes when you don't know why you're eating, just give it a minute. Just be like, what am I feeling? And just spend a second there. The other thing too is breathing. So running from your digestive tract up through your sternum and up through the side of the neck and into the base of the skull and the brain is your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is huge stress response nerve. It is a direct communication. It has ties to anxiety. It ties to depression. It ties to anxious overeating. When we inhale through the nose and fill our belly and lift that sternum, we activate that and it calms it. So the other thing too that we can do before we start to eat Take 3 to 5 deep belly breaths, that it literally has a response on our nervous system that might be activating that overeating. I'm going to get into some other things, not just body awareness, but also regulating blood sugar, because that's going to be the response that creates that chase and that dopamine pursuit that food provides for us. Also, what happens, why we wake up hungry in the middle of the night, sleep and the rotation with that, also the gut microbiome and the chemistry response that we have. So getting into regulating blood sugar. So we all understand the words blood glucose and insulin, and we all know that when we have these spikes and then we have these drops and we have a plummet, and it's like, oh, I feel a little hypoglycemic. I'm really shaky. I need something. That's this deep, deep drop of insulin levels, or we'll have a real high spike of insulin levels that'll make us shaky. That pendulum that is created with that actually creates an environment where it's cyclical. You have that up and then down, and got to have it. And so much of the time is spent in that coming down, that God help you if you pass a bakery. God help you if somebody in the office passes around the donuts. It's like we're in the down swoop. I'm needing to chase some more insulin. So give me that hit, and we know sugar is as addictive, if not more so. I shouldn't say if not more so. We now know that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. So if we are continuing that circle, then we're enabling an environment where we have no choice. We are complete victim to our circumstance and our spiral. So some of the little hacks that we can do to regulate our blood sugar, they're actually timing. They're not even take away the donut. They're not take away the cake or the thing that you want. They're about timing. So what we know is if we start the day, so you have gone to bed, you've gone to sleep, presumably you've fasted all night, not had anything to eat. So you have this length of time that your body's been able to repair. And in that time, things have stabilized, and that's your resting blood glucose level. Well, the first thing you do in the morning, so much of the time, is a Danish or cereal. I mean, even grains, oatmeal, grains, heavy things in the carb category. Carbs turn to sugar. We know that. So if you're going to load the very first response into your body, telling it, hey, we're going to kick the wheel off now, and we're going to kick it off in Crazyville. So here we go. It's like a Ferris wheel. Hop on board, because your day is going to be all over the amusement park. If we can start it from a place that is more stabilized, fats and protein and even vegetables. So not everybody's keen on that. They do it all over the world, but not in the US. So I've really gotten to where I love to have some greens in the morning, put my eggs on a salad. That might be pushing it for you guys. That might not even sound appeasing, but I'm introducing the idea. It's just an idea. Take what you can from today. So if we start our chemistry in the day on a solid base, which is going to be, I'd rather see somebody eggs and bacon. And I know that they're like, what about cholesterol? Well, we're now finding that cholesterol is really a response to what's happening with blood glucose. They are finding in the modern sciences, and I mean, I can cite this all over the place, the PubMed articles, Dr. Hyman on the New York Times bestseller list. It is completely showing that sugar is such an impact to everything else and what turns into sugar. So it's that glycemic index. And so you're looking at your carbs, your sweets, things of that nature. If you can go more towards the proteins and the fats in the morning, that kicks the day off on the right foot. The other thing too that happens is that dip doesn't happen. You don't end up chasing it, eating way more all day long than you meant to. So one is the time of day that you start eating and consuming those items. And it sounds counterintuitive, but the science is now teaching us that if you want to have your Carbs in the day, have them more towards the end of the day, have them more towards your dinner time. And one of the reasons for that is it kicks in a response that enables sleep, and better sleep enables the opportunity for better chemistry. The other trick is, and how's everybody doing? I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm okay on questions. If you have any, just throw them out there or interrupt me. We're a small group. The other thing too is apple cider vinegar is a huge benefit to appetite management. So it's found that if you will have a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a big glass of water, as far as 30 minutes before you consume something, it will manage that blood sugar spike that will then make you chase more food later. So really it's all about these puzzle pieces and setting the groundwork early before, it's like, what do I do now? I'm going to pay for later in that food chase. So apple cider vinegar is a great resource. I find that I just kind of spike it throughout the day and just have it as actually kind of an appetite suppressant a little bit too. With my hormones and chemistry now, I'm really working on some intermittent fasting, but my perimenopausal hormones are not always cooperative. So I find that keeping my appetite down just a little bit longer is helpful with the apple cider vinegar. The other thing they found out recently that's really interesting, and this one I'm working on the practice myself. It's not actually my favorite, but I'll throw it out there in case you guys like it. The order in which you eat something. So the traditional meal arrangement where you would have your salad first, your salad course first, and then you'd have your meat and potato kind of course, and then you'd have dessert after, actually has logic in the way your body works. So if on my plate now, I don't have different courses. I'm not from England. We just serve it on one plate. I'm from the Midwest. It's like it all goes piled up. So, I got a thumbs up from Therese. Okay. I'm just an old redneck recovering. So, but I'll eat the greens first or the vegetable first, and then the protein and the fat, and then the carb. And if I want to have dessert, I have it after everything else. Granted, all these years, I've been able to get myself to a place where chemically I don't even need the dessert hardly ever. But let's be honest, the right time of the month, I need the dessert, and somebody might get killed if I don't have it. So, but the reason we want to have our vegetables first is it literally creates a fiber mesh net in our system for everything else to sit on top of. And when those things go on top of that, it slows the absorption of that glucose. So you've heard of resistant starches and non-resistant starches. A resistant starch is one that breaks down slower, releasing those sugars and insulins into the system slower. A non-resistant starch is one that's like, pow, right to the kisser, you're getting the sugar right now. And when your body gets that heavy influx of immediate sugar, that's when you have an insulin problem. You begin with insulin resistance problem. You get those things flying around in your bloodstream, banging up against things and promoting free radicals. So there's a whole chain of response. So if we can slow that with simply the order in which we eat something, if we can eat our vegetable first and create a nest or a layer for everything else to go on top of and slow that process, then that's huge. That's a huge benefit. And it means you still get to have, your meat and potatoes if you want. On that note, no naked carbs. So like fruits a carb, grains are carbs, dessert kind of things are carbs. So for me, I learned this innately, and I just recently have gotten confirmation of it. I just felt like my body was doing better if I had a little bit of like nuts with fruit. So the other thing too is, for a long time I was kind of anti-fruit. I'm like, it's nature's candy, people overdo it. But I found if I'm giving myself a couple pieces of fruit throughout the day, it actually stabilizes things in a way so that I'm not chasing the goodies later. It just gives me enough of a goodie, enough sugar. And, if you're having all kinds of goodies all day long, this is, something you'll work up to. This is, big time stuff. So don't stress and be like, what? This girl is talking to me about 2 pieces of fruit a day and I'm eating like, a cake a day. So a smidge a day, do what you can, pick out what you can. If you like something, apply it, get really good at that, pull in something else. So no naked carbs, eat it with fat or protein. You want to slow that absorption. So I'm trying to think of other things, like a sugar-free yogurt, not sugar-free. I definitely don't like the artificial sweeteners. They do crazy things to your pancreas and they make you chase more sweets. So no sugar-free, nothing. If you're going to do sugar, I'd rather you take a big old mouthful of honey than a sugar-free anything, just because of the honest relationship it has with your body. Honey is something that I mix in throughout the day when I'm wanting a little fix, but I'm not wanting to like have all the big naughty goodies in the house. So we talked about no morning carbs, try to get away from those. If you're going to have fruit or sugar or dessert or sweet during the day, put it with something else that'll help with the absorption. So fats and proteins. The order of consumption. Okay. Okay, I wake up really hungry every morning and that seems normal. I need to rush and get something to eat. So if that's where you're at, that's a cortisol spike. And cortisol spikes are really important to manage properly because if you don't handle them properly, they promote more cortisol spikes. And cortisol, we know, adds the fat, makes an environment where we are feeling under pressure and stress and we're chasing more food. So if you have heard anything about intermittent fasting, I'm a huge proponent of it. What it means is when you stop eating in the evening, last meal, last consumption of the evening, and then you go all the way to the next morning, that is a fast. That's why they call it breakfast. So when you break your fast in the morning, what I like to try to do, and depending on what's happening with me, this is again goes back to paying attention to your body, having a conversation with where your body's at, and knowing what's going on. If you can comfortably say, I'm just going to push off a little longer. I'm going to just have that black coffee for a little bit and see if I can expand the amount of time between those meals. So that's what intermittent fasting is. It's just giving the body a little bit more time to fast. Now, you're not fasting because you're going to go ahead and eat that day. So for some people, intermittent fasting means that they have their first meal at 10 a.m. Some it's noon. If you're having trouble aspiring to that, then look at it in 15-minute increments. Try to grow that a little bit. But if you have raging hunger and you're unhappy, I need you to tend to that. And the reason you need to tend to that is because that is a chemical spike that you are just promoting more of. So, and that's where for me, what's happened in my journey is I like to have a little handful of nuts. If I can have a little handful of nuts, I find that buys me a little bit more time. I've broken my fast. It is what it is. And when you're fasting, what happens with fasting, and the reason people like doing it is because it promotes the growth hormone and it promotes immunity. It promotes the sloughing off of literally the zombie cells. So one of the things that happens in the modern body is we're not detoxing. We're not getting rid of stuff, the junk. Cells die every day. They float around in our body and contribute to the cancerous endeavors of our cells. So There's a lot of health benefits and also hunger management benefits to trying to extend that fasting period, if that works for you. Again, if you're raging hunger, go ahead and tend to that, and just follow your body and pay real close attention to that. The intermittent fasting does help to promote the appetite relationship, and it does help to improve things. So if you can kind of chisel away at that and grow that amount, that's good. So waking up hungry, cortisol spike, generally speaking, that has a lot to do with what happened to your sleep in the night and what happened the night before with your food. So when I talk about having carbs with my dinner, like a sweet potato is a great carb because it's it's a resistant starch. It's a slow breakdown starch. So it feeds that part of my body that is ready to kind of nest and get comfortable with the comfort foods that happen in the evening, in the dark, in the winter, but it's not spiking the system. If we can avoid eating 2 to 3 hours before bed, we can start to reset our chemistry. And if you're waking up hungry in the middle of the night, that again is a cortisol spike. So I don't know if you guys saw on the flyer, but on the 12th, I'm doing another session, and it's all going to be specific to sleep. Literally, sleep is so important and so huge that if you're not getting a full night's sleep, you absolutely cannot lose weight. They have now, the science around it is so intense, the value of sleep and what it does to flush our body and enable the production of anything that we need that's positive. Sleep is huge. And so I'm going to do a deep dive down into sleep, how to break the habits of what's keeping you insomniac or not being able to fall asleep, not being able to stay asleep, or being tired when you've woken up. So I'll kind of touch on that. Cortisol, kind of talked a lot about that. Does anybody have any questions specific to cortisol? You can turn this around. You can, with these small endeavors and these little puzzle pieces, you can 100% turn this around. And that comes from somebody who was waking up every night, eating tons of food with these cortisol spikes and belly fat, you name it. The other puzzle piece to changing the appetite chase, the food chase, is your gut microbiome. So it's really important to understand. I like to think of it like this city of inhabitants. So we have all of these gut microbes in our stomach, all these little bugs in our stomach. We have good bugs and we have bad bugs. And if you think about a town that has been fed all kinds of nasty stuff, drugs and violence and what have you, the bad gangs take over. They destroy the good neighborhoods and they take over. That's what happens that creates such an extreme appetite imbalance. There's literally like, I want more. That's not enough. And they're the criminals of your gut, and they've taken over. And so what we have to do is we have to re-inoculate and put in the good stuff that's going, just like we would put in a strong police force or government or something in a neighborhood that's really intensively gone south. I'm talking like, extreme. So what we have to do is we have to re-inoculate that effort to not feed the bad gut bugs and to feed the good gut bugs, because they're the police. They're the ones who are going to regulate things. So how do we do that? So one, probiotics. You can get them over the counter. I love Sprouts. I can't believe I haven't mentioned Sprouts in this webinar yet, because I literally belong to the Church of Sprouts. I have been using the folks in that health and wellness department for over 20 years. They are so knowledgeable. They still teach me so much. Go to them, talk with them, share your troubles, share your body issues, share everything with them. They know so much. But probiotics are really healthy, quality probiotics. I love the Sprouts brand of probiotics. They're an amazing price point and they're clean and trustworthy. So probiotics, take a big, juicy, fat, high, the CFU, the number of units, take a big number of that. What I will say is if you haven't been taking a probiotic, tread a little lightly at first, because it can create gas, bloating, indigestion. Because what you think about is that's the byproduct of something being eaten, right? The good gut bug is coming in, he's all proud and strong, and he's like comes in with too much force, and there's gas and bloating as a result. So go a little light at first, enable your body to get used to it. Go with maybe a lower unit number. And then we know kombuchas and yogurts. There's also the probiotic coconut water. With all of those things, watch your sugar, because your sugar is what the bad guys love. So while you think you're killing them with the good stuff, they love that, and they're hanging out and they're demanding more. So they're causing you to have an actual physical chase. It's like you're employed by them. You're working for them now. You're like part of the mafia. They're the bad gangs, and you have to go to work to get their goals accomplished, which is chasing sugar. So keep in mind that if you're trying to convert this and you're trying to set that balance off, watch the sugars. Again, no artificial sweeteners. They're so bad for you. They will make you so fat. They just feed your pancreas a lie, and then you end up in such a bad state. Also, there's attachment to Alzheimer's with artificial sweeteners. So there's a lot of science around how bad artificial sweeteners are. So the probiotics, we've talked about that. Prebiotics. So prebiotics feed the good guys. The prebiotics are your greens, your green leafies all day long. At Costco's the other church I belong to. And you know, a lot of people who are single or just a couple, they say, oh, we can't shop at Costco because it's just the two of us. It's just the two of us in this house. And I freeze a lot. I buy just the amount we're going to have for that week, and then we just rotate through it and we eat it. And so the produce there, they have the sleeve that is the little, not iceberg, romaine lettuce heads. So we get the sleeve of the little romaine lettuce heads, wrap those around turkey, wrap those puppies around anything and everything you can think of, because you're feeding the good gut bugs. Looks like I have a question. Yeah, unfortunately, stevia is an artificial sweetener. What I would say is green leaf stevia. So the problem with stevia is that it's been super over processed, and it initially obviously starts as a plant leaf item, but then, you know, Nestle has gotten their hands on it. You know, God knows Nestle loves to give us all kinds of chemistry. But there's just all of these different companies that are presenting stevia as being healthy. Talk to the folks at Sprouts. If you go there, look for green leaf stevia. You might find that you don't like the flavor of it as much. It kind of almost has a little bit of a, for lack of a better word, a licorice. Like it has this little tinge on the end of it that it may or may not serve you. What I really like to see and promote for people is that you use regular sugars so that your body can have that honest conversation, but wean off of them. And when I say wean off of them, you know, you can take a week doing a full amount of regular sugar in something, and then the next week do half that, and then the next week do half that. That's how I got off of anything in my coffee. Oh, I was a coffee addict, and it was loaded full of garbage, and I just thought it tasted so good. And now when I put stuff in my coffee, like I'll randomly have a moment of like, you know, I never treat myself, and I'll do it. It does not taste good to me anymore. You literally change your chemical response to it. So I would really promote having an honest relationship with your taste buds, and the different trickery for sweet. Just find a place that you can pull away from it. And I know that seems kind of extreme, but you'll pick one or two things in your life that actually applies to, and you'll find your way with it. But for right now, it's just me sharing ideas, you know? Let's see. Okay. So again, feeding the good gut bugs, starving the gut bugs. They love sweets if you can pull away from them, slowly pulling away. So when I talk about a smidge a day and I talk about 3 bread baskets at a sitting, weaning that down to 1 bread basket. That was my deal with myself. Okay, Katy, you're only allowed to have 1 whole bread basket yourself at a meal. And that was a negotiable. That was fine. That was okay for me where I was. So it's looking at the little twists we can do. And then it became, 3 rolls, and it became 2 rolls, then it became 1 roll. And then I got really good at that. Each time I was working until I got really good at it, and then got really good at that. And then I said, let's tackle soda. And then I got really good at that. Let's tackle my daily candy bar addiction. And, and you find your way, just cutting back a little bit and a little bit. The big thing on all of this, and we're about 45 minutes in now, which always feels pretty good to me. I don't want to kill you guys with my yammerings, but I think the big thing is just whatever you're doing. And again, I'll send these notes out, but pick something that you feel doable with and find a negotiation with yourself that feels like it's manageable. And, just be kind because it took you a long time to get here. Whatever your relationship is and whatever reason you've tuned in for this journey, this chat, please be kind to yourself, because hope drives change. Hope drives the opportunity for change. One of the analogies I received years ago that I've carried with me, and if you're in my life, you've heard it way too many times. I need to get one of those telephone cords. The telephone cords that we all had hanging in the kitchen that stretched all around the whole house that none of us have anymore. But I need one of those loop-de-loop telephone cords, because the analogy given to me by a therapist, a cognitive behavioral therapist I was seeing at the time, I kept having relapses and I kept having issues, and I'd do well for a while and then I wouldn't do well. And, just like smoking cessation, we know that people will relapse and then go back and relapse. What they now understand about the science of change and behavior change is that the relapse is part of the journey. It's not a failure. It's actually that little loop. When we grab the 2 ends of that telephone cord and we start to work on it, just like we're working on our goals, those little loops that are so fast and so tight together, they're kind of hard to get apart because there's a lot of momentum in that coil holding them together. Well, there's been a lot of momentum in your journey. When we start to work on something and pull that out, we see that the loops are further and farther between. We have those little bumps in the road, we do, but the more we work on it, the further those bumps get between, the bigger the good times get, and the smaller the bump gets. And eventually we can straighten it out. We don't have bumps. They're hardly imperceptible. And the good times are more distance. And just like an airplane pilot, going cross country, he's not going to go in a straight line. He's not going to go the route he's wanting to go the whole dang time. He's just not. He's going to make these little edits and realize, I'm off course, get back on. I'm off course, get back on. And, at no point does he say, oh, I'm off. Well, that's it. Got to go back to San Diego. Might as well not have done this. So just keep that in mind, and remember those details. These are just various ideas that I feel are powerful. They're little things that you can do to edit your chemistry. And you can just kind of start that process. If anybody wants to meet with me privately, that's an option. If anybody's interested in group coaching sessions where we do deep dives as a collective, that's an option. The grocery store tours, just helping people in their kitchens figure it out. And then my silly little membership that I'm super proud of is only $5 a month. And it's, a cup of coffee, if that. And you get a health webinar like this once a month. You don't have to tune in for it. I send out the video clip. And then you get a mindfulness video clip. You get a weekly email that is a long list of health tips, advisories, things I'm totally into and promoting and love. Not promoting from a marketing standpoint, just like I get excited about. And then of course, if you're on Facebook, there's a Facebook group coaching platform that's part of that membership.